Good evening, everyone. That the little tachanan idea that we had over there, as we sat down, reminded me that about 10 years ago, I was davening here in shul, and I dropped something from my shtender, and I went down to pick it up. And someone came over to me at the end of davening and said, "Rabbi, I don't think you should bend down to pick up anything that you drop, because people are going to think that that's how you have to pray. Like at any point in davening, you have to just jump to the floor to bend down something." So there I sat down for tachanan, and everybody bopped down with me. Okay, so we don't have Tachan Rosh Chodesh. Not everybody. Those in the know didn't. Okay, what I printed out for you, I want to introduce you to a fantastic site. It's called Halachapedia. You can see at the bottom of your page. Halachapedia, I don't know who puts it together, but generally what they do is you look up a particular halacha, and if you type it into Google, they'll have a quote from Halachapedia, and Halachapedia will give you a particular topic and just give you all the bullet points in general. Is it going to quote everybody? It's not necessarily going to quote everybody, but they do a very good job of quoting a number of different sources about a number of different things. So I apologize, the top of the page is cut off because the button came down, but this is a piece from the 9 days. So I want to skip. You can read a lot of this by yourself. In particular, it's just important to note that for Sefardim, they have a super leniency, tremendous leniencies during the 9 days, especially this year, because Sefardim wait till basically Shavua Shachalbo, the week in which Tisha B'Av occurs, which is going to be Sunday. That's the week in Tisha B'Av occurs. So it's only 1 day. There is no Shavua Shachalbo. So when it comes to the morning practice of the 3 weeks, you have what's known as the 3 weeks. You have what's known as the 9 days. You have what's known as the week in which Tisha B'Av occurs, and then Tisha B'Av itself. So this year, there's 9 days, but there's no real Shavua Shachal, but there's no week in which Tisha B'Av occurs, because Tisha B'Av is pushed off till the next day. So therefore, Sefardim, most of their stringencies that they have begin during the week of Shavua Shachal, and this week that doesn't exist, so Sefardim don't have that. So when you're comparing Sefardim to Ashkenazim, so Ashkenazim usually like to, say that, well, at least we don't have to get up the entire month of Elul to say Slichot, and Sefardim will say, yeah, well, we get to have rice on Pesach. Now you get to add another one. And during the 3 weeks, we only have to wait till Shavua Shachalbo, and even then we have even greater leniency. So there are a number of leniencies that we have. For those that are lenient for whatever leniencies that they have in order to shave during the 3 weeks, we're much more stringent during the 9 days itself. And this goes generally for Sefardim and Ashkenazim, but you'll see that the distinction over here. So during the 9 days, we are a little bit more stringent. Again, during Shavua Shachalbo, Ashkenazim, we don't have it necessarily, but 9 days is where we are a little more stringent. If you turn over to page 2, laundry. This is a big one because people don't know about it. So laundry is that Sephardic custom. A lot of people are thinking that maybe they want to become Sephardim. It's interesting to note in the Siddur, I was listening to a shiur, and in the Siddur it discusses a lot of things that happen in Sefardim and Ashkenazim, that because of censors that were on, there were Christian censors in Jews, therefore a lot of our Siddur was changed because of that. So many areas of the Sephardic Siddur have the potentially more original works than that of Ashkenazim. One particular one would be V'lo Malshinim prayer, the prayer that we talk about the heretics. So ours is much more censored because Christian censors went and took a lot of things out. Similarly in Aleinu and other paragraphs as well, a lot of these things were censored. And so therefore when you look at a Sephardic city, like it's totally different in many cases because the Sephardim were not oppressed by the Christians, and therefore they had that. So many times when you look at certain areas of Sephardic halacha or even liturgy, you'll see they're coming from potentially, not always, but potentially they're coming from areas that were not infiltrated, if you will, by foreign customs. So the Sephardic custom is not do laundry during the week of Tisha B'Av. So again, Sephardim have another leniency. Ashkenazim is to refrain already from Rosh Chodesh Av, which begins this evening. Same applies wearing freshly laundered clothing, even if they were washed. As I mentioned earlier this morning, what one should do is technically pre-try on their clothing, so it takes the freshness out of it. As I was leaving to shul, my wife said, "Look, did all your shirts just now?" I'm like, "Yeah, but who's going to wear them?" So she's like, "Okay, I'll put them on Batsheva. I'll have her wear them. She'll take the freshness out of it." If not, what we generally do is, kick them on the floor. We're not putting them in a muddy floor, but we're also not putting them in a freshly mopped floor. We're just putting them on a floor to get some of the freshness out. So we're just going to scroll down a little bit. The same thing is true, by the way, taking your clothing to the cleaners. It is a problem as well. And even getting that stuff back from the cleaners, it's going to be fresh. It is a problem. Technically, even for Shabbos, we don't do that. If you look at number 3, some say that one may prepare one's clothing for the week in which Tisha B'Av falls, by changing one's clothing on Shabbos Chazon, so that one has enough clothes to wear during the next week. Because once it's Shabbos, there is no mourning. There's no overt mourning that we have on Shabbos, and therefore some suggest this. Again, I didn't pull up the footnotes over here, but some suggest that you can do all of this on that Shabbos itself. If Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos and is pushed off till Sunday, according to most Sefardim, one may launder clothing when they launder clothing the week prior to Shabbos Chazon. However, Ashkenazim don't wear laundered clothing in the entire 9 days. We're going to skip down now to a little bit further, and that is towels and sheets. A fresh towel may be used during the 9 days if the towel one was using became soiled. The bed sheets may not be changed in the 9 days unless, of course, they're soiled. There's a key over here. The key is we're trying to take pleasure out, but we're not trying to make you into a filthy human being. Okay, so let's make that clear. So that we're going to see in a moment in showering as well. People are like, I don't shower during the 9 days. But other people say, but we need you to shower during the 9 days. So let's make that clear that there's going to be an element of what we call kavod habrios. Famous joke, which we've said many times before, wasn't a joke, it was a psak halacha of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that he said that when a person goes to the mikveh, he should shower before going to the mikveh because of kavod habriot. Because how do you translate that? Because of how do you translate kavod habriot? Hygiene, proper hygiene, right? We'll translate like that. So one should take a shower, go to the shower before they go into the mikveh. And then he said, and when you come out of the mikveh, you should also take a shower, because many people are not so stringent on kavod habriot. So you should also do that as well, right? So that was the famous idea. So over here we're going to see that the general concept is we're taking freshness out of things, and we want to be able to have a sense of mourning. We're not seeing the joy of the regularity of the cleanliness of what we have. So if they're soiled, the bed sheets you're going to take off. However, if guests arrive during the 9 days, you may put clean sheets on. I'm sure there was a period of time that before this psak had to be written, people would come over and go, can I stay by us? Sure. And I don't even want to sleep on this bed. Like, who slept on it? No, because of the fact that you're changing it for somebody else, it's proper kavod habrios to be able to change that linen. In hospitals, of course, for the sake of health and for the sake of cleanliness, you can do it. A clean tablecloth can be used on Shabbos during the 9 days. A fresh handkerchief may be used only if the old dirty one is unusable. Okay, I'm not going there. Those of you that use handkerchiefs, then I bless you. But I couldn't do it. But let's move on. Showering, bathing, and swimming. The minhag in some places to refrain from bathing during the week in Tisha B'Av falls out, and some places have the minhag not to bathe during the 9 days. Sefardim minhag, as we mentioned, is the week in which Tisha B'Av falls out. Ashkenazic minhag is to avoid pleasure bathing all 9 days, which means we don't go swimming during the 9 days. You don't go into a jacuzzi. You generally don't take a bath. And if you're taking a shower, the idea is that you're doing it for cleanliness. So number 2 on the next page, if someone... Instructional swim, the famous question of instructional swim, right? Generally, I remember in camp, we had instructional swim during the 3 weeks, and during the 9 days, the pool was closed. That's when the lifeguards got off. They got off that week. Otherwise, they were on the whole summer. During the 9 days, they got off. So generally, we try to avoid water. It's one of these things that, unfortunately, during the 3 weeks and 9 days, you often hear tragic stories that happen in Klal Yisrael. It's because the mazel on the Jewish people is in a low place. If you notice the top of the page, which I didn't do on the first page, the tradition was that it's quoted that if one has a lawsuit with a non-Jew, one should delay it until the month of El. You don't want to go in at least the first half of the week of Av, first half of the month of Av, because of the fact that the mazel of the entire Jewish people is on a low place. I just want to finish this, and then we'll mention one other thing. Back to the area of showering. Lost that page. Okay, where is it? Showering. Yeah, it's really Shavua Shechaba, the week in which Tisha B'Av occurs, is where their stringencies occur. If someone is sweaty or dirty, is permitted to shower during the 9 days to clean off and not for pleasure. Some say that this should only be done with cold water and only with one part of the body at a time. So generally, what many people try to do is they put cold water on and they put a little bit warm water to take out that super freezing cold. But people shower for cleanliness. When you live in a place like this, you need a shower. That's just what needs to be done. And so people do it. They try to take shorter showers. They make it colder. They're trying to take out some of the pleasure that they generally have. So that's what I would suggest for people. However you usually shower, do it a little bit different than you usually do. Cut out some of the hot water, or do it shorter, something like that, so that you're not having the same pleasure that you would in a regular shower. And number 3, you see about swimming. Sephardic minhag is to refrain from swimming in cold water during the week in which Tisha B'Av occurs. On Friday before Shabbos Chazon, some permit someone who usually takes a shower on Friday to take a shower before Shabbos. Again, there are those that try to refrain. But in our hot areas, there are permitted things to have. We're not going to go to eating meat and drinking wine right now. But again, there's prohibition of drinking wine and eating meat. I do want to mention, just parenthetically,